We end this class with a look at universal design, which I hope is something that all of you as designers and drafters and builders will go out and do. We are thinking about accommodating disability, aren't we? And disability, notice this definition. It's a limitation of opportunities to take part in society on an equal level with others due to social and environmental barriers. Notice it does not say because there is something wrong with the person or there's something defective. It says there are social barriers and environmental barriers. In other words, your buildings and your landscapes. That old way of thinking was what was known as the medical model. And in the old medical model, the idea was people have disabilities and these make them less than normal. And so we will do what we can to accommodate these less than normal people. And it resulted in things like, okay, here's this community center with, here's the main entrance with stairs. All right, fine, we'll retrofit it with this dorky stuck-on ramp. Well, it looks like, yeah, we're accommodating those people with disabilities, but here's the real entrance. That's the medical model. Nowadays, we follow what is known as the social model, and this model of disability says people are disabled not by their physical differences, but by the way we design and build our spaces. They're disabled by the environments we provide. So, in other words, disability or barriers to disability, barriers are just a symptom of bad design. And if we did a better job of designing, we wouldn't have these problems. So you now find architects moving in the direction of something called universal design. Here's an example in the pictures at the bottom. This is the Student Union building on the University of Oregon campus. And in front of the building is a way to get up and down. So this is a multi-level building and there used to be a bunch of stairs. The stairs were replaced by this thing. And this thing is a sweeping gradual ramp that is used by everybody. So everybody can participate fully in this environment. If there's a band playing here, everybody can come up on the ramp and listen. If they need to go get some food, everybody can go up the ramp and get food. And in this model, in the social model, we say, hey, there's nothing wrong with being different. Actually, having difference in our society is a good thing. It makes everybody richer. It makes our culture richer. So whatever your physical situation is, or let me say your invisible disability situation, it's just a difference. That's all. That's all. You may have noticed the language that I use. I use what is known as person-first language. So I will say a person who uses a wheelchair, a person who has visual impairment. I do not say the handicapped, the blind. These old stereotypes, identity-first language they're called, label the person as first and foremost whatever their disability is. Okay, you're the blind. Okay, maybe you're a lawyer and a really good lawyer, but I'm not thinking about that. I'm just thinking that you're blind. Well, so what we could say was, this is a person, this is a lawyer who is blind. This is a mayor who uses a wheelchair. So mayor comes first, wheelchair is just a descriptor. I want to show you an interesting example from the LCC campus. I did this map back in 2004. So in 2004 we got some funding to begin implementing ADA requirements. The campus was built in the mid to late 60s, and it's, as you know, it's a multi-level campus, and there are lots and lots of stairs. At the time, it was praised for incorporating accessibility because although it had lots of steps, it did have some ramps and some elevators. So it was hard, but you could get around. Since then, we have done a good job of gradually improving accessibility all over campus. But this is in 2004. So we're looking at a plan view. Here on the left is where the LTD bus stop is. And I said, okay, I will map the route of a student who gets off the bus and comes through campus and has a math class on the second floor of Building 11. There were math classes there in 2004. So here's the route you would take to get there. Now I will map the route a person would take who gets off the bus and goes to a math class on the second floor of Building 11 if they use a wheelchair. And so here is the route you would have to take. There's steps. You couldn't go here. You have to go around here. There's some sidewalks. You could go around here. There is a little bit of ramp stuff here and go around the end of the center building over here. There. So if you compare the two routes, the first route I drew is the person who is walking. The green route I drew is the person using a wheelchair. And that's, so look how much longer it is. And that's if you know where the route is, and this is another problem. These accessible routes, such as they are not always easy to find. So this is an illustration of the idea from civil rights that separate is not equal. That is a philosophy in civil rights, and it's a philosophy in the disability community. And this leads us to the idea of universal design. And what universal design features is a place that accommodates everyone equally, no matter what their particular attributes are. If you have some kind of visible or invisible disability, you do not need to identify yourself as needing some kind of special access. You do not need to ask for help. You come in the same entry as everybody else, and you don't have to feel conspicuous. You're not separate, you're with everybody. And I'm showing you this federal courthouse in Eugene because when it was first envisioned, the city council hired a star architect named Thomas Maine. That's why it has this unusual appearance. And Thomas Maine thought about, okay, what does it mean to be a courthouse? Well, a courthouse is a big, grand civic space, has grand flights of stairs up to the grand main entrance. And so he put these grand stairs in there. And the disability community was in an uproar. They said, how are we going to get up those stairs? And the architect said, oh, y'all can go around back. There's an elevator around in the back of the building. Use that. And to their credit, the disability community said, no, I don't think so. And they fought and they protested, and they got the architect to modify the entrance, and so now there's an entrance ramp built into the steps. That is an example of universal design. Now you may say, and I would say, okay, because it was a bit of an afterthought, it's a little bit clumsy, but it works. So this is the idea of universal design, and there are principles of universal design. There is a Center for Universal Design, I think at the University of North Carolina. You might want to go look at their website. I'll show you some examples. So one example is Jerry's Home Improvement Center. Next time you go there, notice that they have a zero-step entrance. So the entrance is perfectly flat. Everyone can enter. There's a motion sensing door opener, so you don't need hand strength to open the door. There are lots and lots of accessible parking spaces close to the front entrance with clearly marked accessible wide routes to get there. Over here, there's a eating area that is accessible, although it is cluttered, so that's a bit of a problem. So that's a great example. Another example is this student union at the U of O that we looked at. At the time that this ramp was designed a few years ago, if you used a wheelchair, you had to go around to the back and there was a freight elevator, and you were definitely a second-class citizen. So they replaced these stairs with this big sweeping ramp. There are some stairs, but guess what? Nobody uses them. Everybody likes this ramp. This has turned out to be a really popular public space that people really enjoy. And I will point out an interesting feature. Remember we talked about ramps and we said that a ramp must have, if a thing has a slope of 5%, it's a ramp and you need handrails. The designers explicitly designed this ramp at a 4.9% slope. So technically it's not a ramp, it's a sidewalk. They don't need handrails. It's a wide open public space. People love it. Here are a couple of early examples. This one is from the 70s. This is Robson Square in Vancouver, British Columbia. This is their provincial courthouse. And this architect built ramps into these grand courthouse steps with the idea that everyone could use the same grand entrance. Well, imagine being a person in a wheelchair using these. What I have read is that people who use wheelchairs find this terrifying because there's no handrail. It's not that flat. It would be easy to fall. So, but it was a first attempt, and kudos to them. Then coming along a little bit later were the architects who designed Pioneer Courthouse Square, which we're looking down on, in downtown Portland, Oregon. And this square actually inspired the designers who did that student union ramp we looked at previously. So this allows all people to use the steps and the ramp equally. Nobody has to stand out as needing special access. Everybody can use it, and so you can sit there and watch concerts or whatever. I will point out that you could no longer build a thing like this as they did, because now there's a requirement for handrails, there's a requirement for landings, which you know about. So this is grandfathered in, but it's no longer ADA compliant. But it's a very popular space. So the idea of curves, if you have a long sweeping curve, you have a long length to rise, whatever your rise is. A long length will give you a flatter slope. And with that in mind, I want to show you this, the two pictures on the right are a pedestrian bridge in Chicago. The Millennium Park in downtown Chicago. This is an aerial view of the park. So this is downtown Chicago. There is the Bean, the famous shiny sculpture that people are always taking pictures in front of. Here's what do you call it? Amphitheater auditorium where they have concerts. And then there's an art museum over here. And this is the pedestrian overpass over this big highway. All of this was designed by the architect Frank Gehry, as you can see. And he made it squiggly and therefore flat, and therefore a 1 to 20 slope, a little less than that, so you don't need handrails. It's universally accessible by all people. He won some awards for this because everyone uses the same space universally. So I hope that in your future work you keep this in mind and you make spaces for everyone.